Welcome back, listeners. My name is Larry Colvig, founder and CEO of the Haven Financial Group. And if you're just tuning in, you're listening to the Haven Financial Group radio show, where weekly we discuss crucial retirement and financial topics that can be essential to living the golden years as golden as you possibly can. Today, we're diving deep on taxes. Lance Larson, our CPA at Haven, is with us, Kim. And understanding the tax treatment of, 401ks and IRAs, which I'm sure most listeners have, but making the right decisions, educated decisions. And you and I were just talking about a client of mine here some years ago, and thankfully this doesn't happen often, where somehow she was talked into liquidating her whole 401k, all pre-tax, and got a huge, huge tax bill. I call that terrible advice.
Yeah, I should say so. And that is why today we want to talk a little bit more about the treatment of 401ks and IRAs when it comes to tax. Again, Lance Larson is with us today. So let's talk, Lance, first, just, walking folks through 401ks, IRAs, exactly what they are and what the tax situation is as they stand.
Yeah, Kim. So there's a small difference between 401ks and IRAs. These are both retirement plans. They are different code sections because they operate under different circumstances. 401k has been set up for employer-sponsored retirement plans. Therefore, you need to be working and be employed in order to contribute to that 401k. The IRA, that is set up for all individuals. So whether you're working or not, you have the opportunity to contribute to an IRA. Now, within those two code sections, then you could look at, there's a traditional method, so the traditional 401k, the traditional IRA, and then there's the Roth accounts. And you have the Roth 401k at work, or you have a Roth IRA. When we talk about those things, then we say traditional one, we're going to get a deduction today because we are going to contribute to that retirement plan today. And we are going to defer the taxes until later on when we pull that money out. The Roth account, we pay the taxes today, and then we let that Roth account grow, whether it's sitting in the Roth 401k through your employer or through a Roth IRA. And so we let that grow tax-free. And so then later on in life, when we pull that money out, then we have tax-free money, which helps out, as we were talking before, with our Social Security to make that non-taxable as well. So there's the trade-offs that we always have to look at between the Roth and the traditional.
Okay. Now, all of these accounts do have a deadline by which you have to start to draw some of this money out, which means you have to have made tax decisions because you're going to have to start to pull the money.
So the traditional ones, we have the required minimum distribution age. For those right now who haven't started yet, it's going to be age 73. And a few years from now, that age will go up to 75. Before it was age 72, and even before that, it was age 70 and a half. And those are going to be on the traditional accounts. For the Roth accounts, there actually is no required minimum distribution for the original account holders. It's only when you receive an inherited Roth that there becomes the required minimum distributions and having to clean those things out.
Okay. Now, when we say required distribution, I mean, I realize that sounds pretty simplistic, but I mean, what exactly does that mean? What if I'm in a situation and I don't want to pull that money out?
Well, that's where I kind of laugh and chuckle with people and saying, well, even though, Kim, you don't want to pull it out, you're going to, because if you don't take out that required minimum distribution, you're going to give at least 20%, if not more, as a penalty to the IRS. And so the question is would you rather keep it in there and give that penalty to the IRS and say, thank you, Uncle Sam, and here's more money for you? Or would you take it out and keep it in your own pocket and then decide what to do with it, that you may not need to have it as for spending, but you could save it. You can use it as a gift. A lot of things that you could possibly do with it if there is not a need that for you, if you do not have a need for it.
Right.
But Kim, you're going to take it.
Yeah.
You don't want to deal with the penalty or asking for mercy from the IRS. What you do with it's completely up to you. If you're listening and you heard the age 73 and you said, well, I always thought it was 70 and a half, you are correct. For years, it was 70 and a half where that RMD was required. It moved a couple of years ago to 72. Now it's 73. And I think 5 to 6 years from now, it's scheduled to go to age 75. So what opportunities do you have now to minimize those tax ramifications later? Maybe it is Roth conversions, having that discussion with the fourth quarter. We have those discussions so we don't miss opportunities. Because at the end of the day, you want to pay, do you want to pay 12% now or do you want to pay 15% or more in the future? I think that's an easy answer. If you're listening and you go, well, I know I have a Roth option in my 401k, because for years we didn't have those options.
Right.
And that's where people kick themselves. Well, I wished I would have done more Roth. Well, the rules weren't there. But if you're wondering, what percent should I put in pre-tax and what percent should I put in Roth in my 401k? That may be a good reason to come in and have a conversation with us. Do you have the benefit now of doing pre-tax to get the tax reduction in your tax liability now? Or does it make sense to put more of it in Roth? It's all driven by income and taxes. It always is. We can have more of those conversations. And when you retire, you're going to want to roll those 401ks into IRAs for a variety of reasons. The rules changed in recent years on that. More investment options.
Mm-hmm.
If you pass away and a 401k has to be drained in 5 years, IRAs in 10 years. There's a whole bunch of reasons. I just had somebody this past week. Each of them had 4 different 401ks.
Ugh.
3 of the 4 were all orphan 401ks. They're IT consultants.
Mm-hmm.
We consolidated all 3 of them into one IRA. And if you're listening and go, well, I want diversification, you still can have diversification. You just don't have to have a plethora of all these accounts to make things confusing.
Sure.
Simplification and consolidation goes a long way.
Absolutely. Are there limits on how much you can contribute every year?
There are, Kim. And so this is where we have those code sections of the 401k versus the IRA. And so the limit for 401k is going to be $23,000 with the $7,500 catch up for those that are over age 50. Fortunately for the IRA, your limit is $7,000 with a $1,000 catch up for those over 50. So that's why there are these different code sections, and why we have to talk about the plans separately is because there are different rules and those different contribution limits for each of those plans there.
Can you open numerous IRAs and put the maximum amount in each one? Is that a way to get around it?
Unfortunately, no, Kim.
Mm-hmm.
It would be great if we could, but that is not allowed by the law.
The IRS kind of likes to know what's going on in our lives. If you didn't notice that, Kim.
Yes, I have noticed.
Where your money is. Of course, you do know that every year, at the end of the year, financial institutions report to the IRS what the balances were in those accounts. So
Right.
I understand what we're trying to accomplish. But at the end of the day, they do want some control, and then they control when we take it out because they want some of those tax revenues before we pass away.
Right.
It all comes down to money. Imagine that, Kim.
Yeah, it certainly does. Well, one of the tough things I think for a lot of people too is there's just a lot of there's a lot of numbers and figures and dates and all these kinds of things. And that was where, having a partner like Haven, it's so important, right? You guys stay on top of that kind of thing all the time.
It's our job description. And if we're not doing it, you shouldn't be with if you're not getting that attention with who you're working with, then you're not getting the attention you deserve. Again, yes, we're going to have the conversations ongoing. Some people want more attention. Whatever the attention is you're looking for, we're going to give you to you. And again, I always say there's no quotas to how many times people can come in. Our job description is to answer questions, keep you up to date on these changes, law changes, tax changes. What that will do is give you the confidence to know you're being taken care of and you're not being forgotten, which a lot of people are. We do not want to be this stereotype in the industry, and I've heard it many times in all the years I've done this, which is a lot. Well, we talked to our financial guy about once or 2 years ago, and we haven't talked to him since. Well, then why don't you move on to some different territory.
To someone else. Let's just put it right out there. Haven Financial Group would love to chat with you and be your partner. 612-504-8400. Give them a call and tell them you heard us here on the radio and you'd like to come in, sit down for a consultation, talk about what your goals are, maybe some of the questions that you have related to taxes, or maybe you have questions about, different saving vehicles. Maybe you're trying to figure out how in the world you start to draw your income once you get into retirement. The number again is 612-504-8400. Coming up next, we're going to talk about selling your home and how you deal with the taxes associated with that. A lot of retirees thinking about maybe downsizing, but that tax bill can be pretty daunting. So we'll chat about that when we come back right here on the Haven Financial Group Radio Show.